This is the city Dubai wants the world to see. And this is the same city a few hours later. The tower has not fallen, the city has not lost power, but Dubai has disappeared, not behind smoke, not beneath water, behind the desert itself. And the disappearing skyline is only the damage cameras can see. When the view returns, the dust stays behind. In every battle, Dubai either loses or wins by paying to fight again. To understand why this happens, we have to look at the ground this metropolis stands on. Dubai spent decades building a futuristic utopia made of concrete and glass. They built the tallest structures ever conceived by human engineering. They imported millions of tons of steel to forge an empire of luxury. They laid down endless ribbons of black asphalt across the barren dunes. They created an illusion of absolute control over nature. They marketed this city as the ultimate sanctuary of human progress, but they built all of this directly on top of an ancient, volatile environment. The desert was never defeated. It was just temporarily paved over. Across the Arabian Peninsula, a weather phenomenon known as the Shamal wind dictates the rules of survival. These strong northwesterly winds can sweep across the arid landscape with terrifying speed. When they do, they pick up millions of tons of loose sand and microscopic dust from the deep desert. This is not a solid wall of destruction out of a Hollywood movie. It is a slow, suffocating blanket. The heavier sand particles skip along the ground, while the ultrafine dust gets suspended high in the atmosphere. This airborne dust can travel for hundreds of miles, crossing international borders before it descends on the city. The city cannot simply turn this off. There is no switch to deactivate the local geography. Dubai relies on advanced forecasting and early warning systems. They issue alerts. They seal the doors. They wait. The first battle is the easiest to see because it erases the very image Dubai sold to the world. How does the tallest building on Earth disappear without moving an inch? Dubai built upward so the world could never ignore it. The skyline was explicitly designed to be instantly recognizable from any angle. The Burj Khalifa and the surrounding architecture form the visual brand of the entire city. It is a massive billboard projecting wealth, stability, and technological dominance. Millions of tourists book flights and luxury hotels every year specifically to look at this skyline. Real estate developers sell luxury apartments based entirely on the promise of an unobstructed view of the future. Tourism and real estate are the central pillars of the economy. The entire business model of the metropolis relies on the city looking exactly like the flawless promotional brochures. The desert answered by making it impossible to see. The sandstorm does not need to apply physical force to the concrete to ruin the illusion. It only needs to manipulate light. When millions of microscopic dust particles flood the airspace over the city, they scatter the sunlight. The physics of this scattering effect turns the bright blue sky into a thick, oppressive orange haze. The Burj Khalifa is an engineering marvel that can withstand incredible wind loads and extreme seismic activity. But human engineering cannot force light to travel through a dense cloud of airborne desert crust. The ultimate triumph of architecture is rendered completely invisible. The economic fallout is immediate and severe. When the skyline disappears, the tourism crisis begins. Severe dust storms force Dubai International Airport to delay or divert lucrative flights. Global logistics freeze in place. Tourists who paid thousands of dollars for a pristine luxury experience are trapped in hotel lobbies, staring out at an apocalyptic void. Social media influencers cannot capture the perfect image. The hospitality industry bleeds revenue as outdoor dining mega events and luxury yacht excursions are abruptly canceled. The city loses control of its own narrative. The desert forcibly reminds everyone exactly where they are. Dubai attempts to fight back. Meteorological centers track the advancing dust clouds with satellites. Authorities blast urgent warnings to smartphones. Outdoor construction grinds to a halt to protect the workers. But this is not a technological victory. Dubai cannot clear the sky. They can only monitor the degradation of their own image and wait for the atmospheric pressure to shift. total visual defeat. Dubai does not lose a single building during these storms, but they lose the ability to control their own reflection in the eyes of the world. The buildings survived. The image of Dubai did not. The skyline came back. The dust stayed on the city. Why does a city built from glass need people hanging hundreds of meters above the ground? Most of the time, they are not rebuilding the tower. They are restoring the illusion that the desert never touched it. Dubai surrounded itself with glass beside an unlimited supply of dust. The architectural philosophy of the city relies heavily on massive, highly reflective glass facades. These gleaming towers are designed to mirror the ocean, the artificial lakes, and the bright sky. It is a brilliant display of extreme wealth and modern aesthetics. But glass requires a perfectly clean surface to maintain its structural illusion. A glass skyscraper in the Middle East is essentially a giant vertical dust magnet. You are building a massive, transparent wall in a region where the ground frequently lifts into the air. The desert attacks this vulnerability with absolute consistency. As the Shamel winds carry fine particulate matter through the urban canyons, the dust clings to every exposed window. The heavy sand creates micro-abrasions at the lower levels, while the fine dust coats the upper floors in a dull brown film. The transparency is lost. The reflections die. A multi-billion-dollar architectural masterpiece suddenly looks abandoned and decaying. The illusion of a sterile modern utopia breaks down completely when your expensive windows are covered in the earth you tried to escape. Dubai fights back with an army of human labor and specialized machinery. The city relies on custom-built building maintenance units. Heavy mechanical cradles are lowered down the sides of these mega structures. Teams of highly trained rope access technicians dangle in the extreme heat, hundreds of meters above the pavement, armed with specialized cleaning solutions and squeegees. This is a monumental logistical operation that never truly ends. Imagine washing 120,000 square meters of glass on a single building. For the Burj Khalifa alone, it takes months of grueling labor to clean the entire exterior. By the time the crew finishes the bottom floors, the top floors are already dirty again. It is a permanent cycle of human endurance against geographical reality. Dubai wins the appearance temporarily. The price for this victory is immense. It is a permanent recurring expense of human labor, water, and extreme maintenance. The real estate developers are not just paying for the initial construction of the building. They are paying an eternal tax to the desert just to keep the glass looking like glass. Dubai refuses to let the buildings look dirty. The glass becomes clean again. The victory lasts until the wind changes. A window can wait to be cleaned. A road cannot wait to be used. What happens when the road is still there but the driver can no longer read it? Dubai built a sprawling urban ecosystem that fundamentally depends on massive highway systems. The Sheikh Zayed Road is a colossal multi-lane artery pumping thousands of vehicles through the heart of the city every single hour. The entire local economy relies on the fast and efficient movement of cars, commuters, and commercial freight. The infrastructure demands clear visibility and high traction at all times. A city built for extreme speed requires extreme safety. The desert attacks the roads in two distinct and terrifying ways. First, the airborne dust severely reduces visibility. Driving into a thick storm feels like driving into a wall of muddy water. The skyline vanishes. The lane markers disappear into the haze. The brake lights of the car ahead become visible only at the last possible second. Second, the heavier sand particles are physically blown across the asphalt. The desert literally attempts to reclaim the surface of the highway. Sand dunes begin to form on the shoulders of the roads, especially on the outskirts of the city, where the urban grid meets the open dunes. The danger escalates rapidly. High-speed traffic combined with near-zero visibility and reduced tire traction creates a highly lethal environment. The smooth flow of commerce stops. Millions of dollars in delayed freight begin to stack up. Dubai fights back through strict operational control and heavy machinery. Electronic highway signs instantly flash lower speed limits. Police patrols secure dangerous sectors and manage the slowing traffic. Authorities issue urgent directives for drivers to pull over and wait for the hazard to pass. Once the wind dies down, the mechanical counterattack begins. Heavy street sweepers and specialized sand-clearing trucks deploy across the highway network. They physically scrape brush and vacuum the desert off the asphalt. They haul the encroaching sand away just so the economic arteries can function normally again. A temporary operational win. A skyscraper can disappear into the clouds and remain perfectly safe. A driver moving at high speed does not have that luxury. Dubai keeps the roads open, but the cost is profound. Traffic slows to an agonizing crawl. The risk of major collisions skyrockets during every weather event. The logistics network is fundamentally disrupted. The city is forced to constantly sweep the desert away from its doorstep just to keep its population moving. The road is still beneath the car. The problem is everything the driver can no longer see. When the sky clears, the road returns to normal. Solar panels keep losing after the storm is gone. How can one of the sunniest places on Earth lose solar power to the desert? Dubai recognized that their future economic survival depended on generating clean energy. They built the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park, one of the largest renewable energy projects in the entire world. The underlying logic is flawless. The region receives incredible amounts of direct, uninterrupted sunlight for most of the year. Expanding into the vast, empty desert to harvest that sunlight seems like the ultimate engineering victory over nature. It is an attempt to turn the endless heat into an unlimited resource. The desert does not need to switch off the sun. It only needs to place something between the light and the panel. The technical term for this phenomenon is soiling. When a dust storm passes over the massive solar arrays, it leaves behind a fine layer of particulate matter on the glass surfaces. Solar panels generate electricity by absorbing photons. Dust acts as a physical barrier, reflecting and absorbing the light before it can ever reach the sensitive photovoltaic cells. Research shows that if these panels are left uncleaned in this extreme environment, they can lose up to 30% of their energy-generating capacity in a single month. The irony is staggering. The very environment that provides the abundant sunlight also provides the exact material needed to block it. Dubai fights back with rigorous engineering and constant maintenance protocols. They install advanced optical sensors across the vast solar park to measure the exact rate of dust accumulation in real time. Once the power output drops to an unacceptable economic level, the cleaning protocols activate. Dubai deploys fleets of automated robotic cleaners. These specialized machines drive over the miles of panels, wiping the dust away. In some cases, they use dry brushing methods to save precious water in a region that has almost no natural freshwater. In other cases, manual labor and high-pressure washing are required to remove the deeply baked mud. A Pyrrhic solar victory. Dubai wins the electricity back after paying to uncover the sun. The city successfully harnesses renewable energy, but they must maintain a massive secondary industry just to keep the panels functional. They pay millions for the robotic systems. They pay for the advanced monitoring technology. They absorb the financial cost of the energy lost during the period the panels were dirty. The cleaning process itself requires massive resources. At least solar panels were built to face the desert. Your home was built to keep it outside. The windows were closed, the doors were sealed. So how did the desert get inside? Dubai built indoor spaces with the promise of absolute perfect isolation. Whether it is a luxury penthouse overlooking the marina, a corporate boardroom, or a standard family apartment, the expectation is exactly the same. The interior must be pristine. It must be perfectly cool. It must be totally separated from the harsh reality of the Arabian environment outside. Engineers use advanced sealants, heavy doors, and thick double-glazed glass to create an impenetrable building envelope. You pay a premium price for the guarantee that the desert cannot touch you. But the desert finds a way through the fortress. The attack is microscopic. During a severe storm, the sheer wind pressure forces ultrafine dust particles known as PM10 and PM2.5 through the tiniest imperfections in the building structure. These particles are incredibly small. They infiltrate through microscopic gaps in the window frames. They slip under heavy reinforced doors. They are pulled in through fresh air intake vents before the mechanical systems can catch them all. The residents wake up to find a thin layer of fine grit coating their luxury dining tables, their marble floors, and their beds. The dust hangs in the living room air, caught in the rays of the morning sun. The psychological barrier is completely broken. The expensive sanctuary has been breached. Airborne dust carries allergens and irritants, creating sudden spikes in respiratory distress across the urban population. The local health infrastructure feels the strain every time the sky turns orange. Dubai fights back by constantly reinforcing the interior defenses. Residents tape their windows during extreme weather events. Building management teams constantly inspect and replace weather stripping. Indoor air purifiers run at maximum capacity, trying to scrub the invisible invaders out of the living spaces. The vacuum cleaners are brought out daily to erase the evidence of the breach. The border is breached. Dubai closed the windows. The desert came inside anyway. The thick walls hold back the massive sand dunes. They do not create a perfect border against the smallest particles in the atmosphere. The city can severely limit the invasion, but it cannot stop it entirely. The inhabitants must constantly clean their private luxury spaces just to maintain the psychological illusion of separation. And every particle stopped at the boundary has to end up somewhere. What happens when the desert reaches the machine that makes Dubai livable? This is not a dirty piece of fabric. It is part of the machine that makes Dubai livable. Dubai is a city entirely dependent on artificial mechanical cooling. Without heavy-duty constant air conditioning, human existence in this extreme density and extreme luxury would be physically impossible. The towering residential blocks, the massive indoor shopping malls, and the deep underground transit stations all rely on complex, centralized cooling systems. These systems are the literal mechanical lungs of the city. They draw in outside air, they cool it using massive chiller plants, and they distribute it to millions of people. If the lungs fail, the city becomes uninhabitable in a matter of hours. The desert attacks the lungs directly. When the city breathes, it inhales the dust storm. The heavy particulate matter is sucked into the massive air intakes on the roofs of the skyscrapers and the district cooling plants. The first line of defense is the filtration system. The heavy fabric filters catch the incoming dust, but as the storm rages outside, these filters become rapidly clogged with thick, heavy brown dirt. Every particle the filter stops protects the room while making the machine carry more of the desert. When a filter clogs, the crucial airflow is severely restricted. The cooling system begins to suffocate. To compensate, the massive compressor engines have to work much harder to pull air through the thick wall of dirt. This causes a massive spike in electricity consumption across the entire power grid. If the fine dust bypasses the filter entirely, it coats the sensitive condenser coils. A dirty coil cannot release heat efficiently into the atmosphere. The entire thermodynamic cooling cycle degrades. The machinery overheats and risks total catastrophic failure. Dubai fights back through relentless industrial maintenance. Armies of technicians are dispatched into the hot ceilings and dangerous rooftops of every building in the city. They pull out the blackened, choked filters and replace them with pristine white ones. They use harsh industrial chemicals and high-pressure water hoses to blast the baked desert mud out of the metal condenser coils. They recalibrate the airflow sensors and restart the heavy machinery. They do this in every building across the entire city continuously without stopping. Dubai wins on subscription. The cooling system survived because the maintenance never stopped. The massive machines keep running and the rooms stay perfectly cold. But this is the ultimate Pyrrhic victory. The city only survives because it is willing to pay the massive operational cost of constantly cleaning its own mechanical lungs. Dubai wins this battle every single day, which means Dubai must pay for the same victory every single day. Dubai proved that a modern city can survive inside a desert, but survival is not the same as victory. Look at what it takes to keep this city alive. The The skyline is lost to the dust, and millions in tourism revenue vanish with it. The glass towers remain gleaming only because an army of workers perpetually washes them. The massive highways function only because fleets of machines sweep the sand away. The solar panels capture the sun only after robotic cleaners scrub them clean. The private homes offer sanctuary only after the residents wipe the grit from their luxury tables. The cooling systems provide comfort only because technicians constantly tear the desert out of the filters. Every clean window, every open road, every working solar panel, and every cool room exists because someone is still fighting. The illusion of a sterile, perfect metropolis is maintained through sheer financial force and endless manual labor. The desert never needed to destroy Dubai. It only needed to make every victory temporary. What kind of victory has to be purchased again tomorrow? Can a city claim to have defeated the desert if every clean surface has an expiration date? Dubai did not defeat the desert. It turned the desert into an operating expense. The information presented in this documentary relies on general meteorological principles, engineering studies on structural maintenance, and publicly available economic observations regarding severe weather impacts in the region. Dust storm severity and building performance vary significantly based on location engineering standards and specific weather events. If you want to understand more about the engineering failures and hidden costs of extreme cities, hit the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments which mega project we should investigate next. Stay curious.